Day 91, on starting now. We don't tell ourselves, I'm never going to write my symphony. Instead we say, I am going to write my symphony, I'm just going to start tomorrow. Here's a principle to introduce today and adhere to it for the rest of your life. Whenever you're saying, I'm going to start tomorrow, stop whatever you're doing now and do something, anything, to start now. It doesn't have to be anything big, and it doesn't mean you have to be reckless and start working on your goals without any kind of research on how to tackle your new challenge. Just take an action that is in alignment with your new resolution, and it will take you at least a little bit closer to accomplishing your objectives. Let's say you want to start a new diet. Instead of saying that you're going to start tomorrow, take the first action today. Inspect your pantry, lay out on the table all of the foods that you're going to give up, and get them out of your house. If you want to start saving money, don't put it off until your next paycheck. Inspect your house, find things you no longer use and list them online for sale. The money you make from selling your old possessions goes straight to your emergency fund. Such simple actions are real-world implementations of your new resolution and will greatly diminish the risk that when you wake up the next day, you won't remember your decision to change your life, or tell yourself that you need one more day before you start. They also make it easier to overcome your inertia and begin to develop momentum toward reaching your stated goal. Week 14. Day 92, on pleasure gained from abstaining. If you are struck by the appearance of any promised pleasure, guard yourself against being hurried away by it, but let the affair wait your leisure, and procure yourself some delay. Then bring to your mind both points of time, that in which you will enjoy the pleasure, and that in which you will repent and reproach yourself after you have enjoyed it, and set before you, in opposition to these, how you will be glad and applaud yourself if you abstain. When you delay gratification, it's tempting to think about it in black and white. Delaying gratification means no pleasure now in exchange for pleasure in the future. Succumbing to instant gratification means some pleasure now at the expense of your future. In reality, things aren't that simple. As Epictetus says, there's pleasure to be found in abstaining. When you successfully deny yourself something, even if you feel deprived of it, at the same time you'll feel proud of acting in accordance with your values and long-term goals. And what might surprise you is that there's some pain found in instant gratification. Yes, you get to enjoy the reward right now, but this also means that you're betraying your future self. You're missing out on the positive feelings you could have gotten by successfully exerting willpower, and in the end, the anger you feel at yourself might not be worth the initial pleasure. Day 93, on connecting dots. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. All you need to do to achieve your long-term goals is to stick to them. Easy to say, hard to do, particularly when working on those objectives means months upon months of depriving yourself, making sacrifices and hard choices. That's why the belief that things will connect in the end is so important for maintaining a high level of self-discipline over the long term. Willpower alone is a precious tool in your arsenal, but if it isn't combined with the confidence that one day it will all be worth it, you may run out of juice well before reaching that point. When I started my entrepreneurial life, I instilled in myself the belief that no matter what would happen along the way, every sacrifice, hardship, blood, sweat, and tears would be worth it in the end. I had a powerful reason why, and I was confident that I could make it come true. If it weren't for this belief, I know that I would have given up before reaching my objective. And with a more than fair share of knockout-like failures, this would have probably happened a long time before the dots would have finally connected. It took me 7 years before all of my dots, previous experiences and acquired skills, connected and helped me build a successful self-publishing company. When in doubt, remind yourself that change takes time. What you now see as completely unrelated things can soon connect and form a beautiful picture. Day 94, on over-identifying with your emotions. People over-identify with their emotions. I was really mad, I couldn't help it. I was tired, so I didn't do my workout. But were you really so tired that you couldn't at least try, or did you feel slightly tired and consider it a great excuse to skip exercise altogether? I was angry, so I shouted at her. But does feeling anger mean that you have to vent it, or did shouting at your spouse simply feel better than trying to resist the urge to do so? I felt so joyous, I had to buy it to celebrate. There's nothing wrong in celebration, but if every joyous occasion leads to unnecessary purchases to treat yourself, isn't your joy really acting as an apparently legitimate excuse for not saving money? Take notice of whenever you over-identify with your emotions. How often do you use them as excuses for failing to exert self-control? Letting your fleeting feelings control your actions is a surefire way to jeopardize your resolve to become a self-disciplined person. Day 95, on early morning workouts. I learned the advantage of training early, before the day starts, when there are no other responsibilities and nobody else is asking anything of you. Arnold Schwarzenegger 90. There's a reason why so many successful people wake up early. Early mornings tend to be free of distractions, people asking things of you, emergencies you need to tend to, and dozens of obligations you need to fulfill. By the time other people are awake, the early risers have accomplished more than the rest will accomplish during their entire workday. One of the best ways to start a day is with exercise. For one, exercising in the morning means that you'll always have time to perform this crucial habit. Leaving exercise for the evening carries the risk of skipping it because of tiredness or other pressing things that require your attention. Second, exercising in the morning sets a powerful example for the rest of the day. You start the day with a conscious decision to do something that requires self-control and dedication. The way you start your day is usually the way the entire day unfolds. Last but not least, training early is usually most effective because that's when you have the most energy. It's hard to have the same reserves of willpower and stamina in the evening, after you've depleted a lot of your mental energy on other things. If possible, try to include exercise in your morning routine. It doesn't have to be an entire workout if for some reason you need to have your workout in the evening. Even just a few reps of some simple exercises, some stretching or a quick walk around the block can provide benefits and start your day on the right note. Day 96, on silence. Silence is the absolute poise or balance of body, mind, and spirit. The man who preserves his selfhood ever calm and unshaken by the storms of existence, not a leaf, as it were, astir on the tree, not a ripple upon the surface of shining pool, is, in the mind of the unlettered sage, is the ideal attitude and conduct of life. If you ask him, what are the fruits of silence, he will say, they are self-control, true courage or endurance, patience, dignity, and reverence. Silence is the cornerstone of character. Charles Alexander Eastman 91. In today's noisy world, silence is uncomfortable. Most of us rarely, if ever, experience true silence. We listen to podcasts when exercising, listen to music when commuting, and interrupt work with a chat or two with colleagues. Silence is uncomfortable, because it means there are no outside distractions, it's just you and your thoughts. Silence in a conversation is even more uncomfortable because there's an unspoken rule that when people have nothing to talk about, they should come up with any topic just to avoid an awkward silence that might require them to become fully present and aware of how they really feel. Since silence can bring so much discomfort, it can be a potent tool to improve your self-control. First, sitting in silence and listening to your inner thoughts without any external distractions can help you slow down and analyze your recent decisions or assess how well you're doing with your new goals. Try to spend at least 5 minutes a week in silence and you'll be surprised how much valuable feedback you can retrieve from within you. As a second strategy, embrace silence in a conversation. No, I don't mean that you should make the conversation weird by deliberately not saying anything. I refer to using silence as an exercise in improving your self-control when dealing with other people. For example, try the following challenge for one day. When talking with somebody who has a different opinion than you do, resist the temptation to immediately attack them and instead listen silently until they have fully presented their arguments. You will have positioned yourself for a more intelligent participation in the conversation, simply because you took the time to listen carefully to what the other person said. Another exercise is to practice self-control by using fewer words. For one day, focus on listening to the other person. Ask as many questions as you can to maintain an interesting conversation and resist the urge to comment or share too many of your opinions. Both of these exercises will train you to be more focused on the other person and less impulsive during a conversation. Day 97, on treating yourself well. Nearly every human action is in some way an expression of how we think about ourselves. Gordon Livingston 92. If nearly every action of yours is an expression of how you think about yourself, what do your actions say about how you see yourself? If a person is stuffing themselves with unhealthy food and drinks, do they respect their bodies, or is it an expression that they don't value the only vessel they'll ever have in this life? If a person is constantly playing video games, watching pornography, or trolling on social media, what does choosing to engage full-time in such low-value entertainment options say about their self-esteem? If for one day they were to play host to an important guest, say a successful person they admire, would they entertain their guest in the same way? If a person is spending money they don't have and never saving even a penny, how much respect do they have for their own well-being, knowing that financial emergencies do happen and that, without savings, they can be some of the most stressful events in life? Consider your actions and ask yourself what they express. Do you treat yourself well, or are most of your actions things you would never do to a dear friend of yours? Day 98, on society, not holding you back. It's not society that holds us back, it's ourselves. We just blame society because not only is it easier but it's a nearly impossible weight to move. This way, we don't actually have to change. Neil Strauss 93. It's easy to use society as a crutch. I can't lose weight because there are billboards of fast food restaurants everywhere, and besides, I just got a free coupon for a burger. I can't become more productive because my colleagues laugh at me for making an effort, and besides, my boss won't appreciate it anyway. I can't stay faithful to my significant other because dating apps make it so easy to meet sexy people. Is it the billboard, your colleagues, or dating apps that control your life? If so, is that really how you'd like to live, at the whim of advertisers, other people, or new technologies? Every time you claim that it's the surroundings that hold you back, ask yourself if it's really your environment or perhaps it's just an easy excuse for you to not act. And if you still think it's your surroundings, because that might be the case, then change them. Nobody forces you to hang out with the same people, install a dating app, or drive by your favorite fast food joints. If your long-term goals are important to you, you can always consider moving to a place that will be more conducive to your personal growth. Week 15. Day 99, on applying knowledge. Reading 32 books means you're reading a lot, but does it mean you're applying it? Darren Hardy 94. It's day 99, so you've already read 98 entries, with most of them offering tips you can immediately implement in your life. How many have you applied so far? If the answer is 0 and you have no intention of doing so, what's the point of continuing to read this book? Whenever you're reading a non-fiction book for educational purposes, try to find at least one important lesson that you'll apply in your life. It doesn't have to be anything big, the point is to develop a habit of applying at least some knowledge from each book you read. I'll give you some examples from my own reading list. When I read The One Thing by Gary Keller, I decided to always seek only one key action to improve any given area of my life. In the case of my self-publishing business, it was the decision to stick to a consistent publishing schedule, an activity I discovered to be the one thing that makes everything else easier or unnecessary, and foregoing any other endeavors that take a lot of time, but bring few results, such as participating in social media. When I educated myself about dividend stock investing by reading some books, countless articles, and blog posts, I used their suggestions for building my own portfolio. Within a couple of weeks of educating myself about dividend stocks, I'd already bought some shares. When I read 2 practical books about rock climbing, I identified a technique I considered to be a key tool for self-improvement, establishing a specific intention prior to scaling a wall, such as an intention to focus on proper hip positioning, and started using it during my workouts. If you finish a non-fiction book and don't act upon any of its suggestions, you've wasted time. When reading, always think about how you can apply the teachings in your own life, not about how you can finish the book faster so you can begin reading another one. Day 100, on being a leader. If you wish to control others, you must first control yourself. Miyamoto Musashi 95. One good way to boost your willpower when you're struggling to maintain it is to remind yourself of the benefits of self-control. In other words, give yourself an answer as to why you should resist yet another temptation and stay self-disciplined. Failing to find a good answer will make you succumb to the urge, so it's useful to know as many practical benefits of self-discipline as possible. One overlooked benefit of self-control, or a big weakness in a person who lacks it, is that leadership is impossible without it. If you demand self-discipline from others, you should first have it yourself. Otherwise, you'll lack the credibility that makes other people want to follow you. This applies not only to the most common use of the word leader, such as a business leader, but also to any other role in which you're responsible for the well-being of another person, of a group of people, being a parent, being in a relationship, being a part of a local community, etc. Whenever you're struggling to stay disciplined, think of people whom you consider your loyal followers, whether they're your colleagues, your children, your friends, or your neighbors. What would they think of you, and would they still be willing to follow you, if they knew that you'd failed to embrace the quality that they admire in you so much that they consider you an important person in their lives? Day 101, on the ultimate excellence in self-discipline. Ultimate excellence lies not in winning every battle, but in defeating the enemy without ever fighting. Sun Tzu 96. Some people wrongly believe that self-discipline is a never-ending series of battles with temptations. Today you're battling against the temptation to drink wine, tomorrow you'll battle against the temptation of laziness, and the day after tomorrow you'll struggle with the temptation to eat pizza instead of steamed vegetables. In the meantime, you'll have dozens of smaller skirmishes, each attacking you from a different front. In reality, if your life looks like that, there's little chance that you'll stay self-disciplined in the long haul. The ultimate goal is to design your life in such a way that you'll rarely fight against temptations. There are 3 primary tools you can use for that. 1. Identity change. When your identity changes, you no longer need to desperately fight against temptations because you don't see them as such. If eating potato chips daily is no longer a part of your identity, there's no temptation to defeat. Previously overpowering urges are now a non-issue because they are incongruent with your new identity. 2. Habits. Unlike identity change, you might still need some self-discipline to act or to overcome a temptation, but it will be only a modicum of what had been necessary before you established your routine. Instead of a full-blown battle, either you won't need to fight at all, or it will be a short brawl at most. 3. Avoiding temptations. If you don't want to eat fast food, avoid fast food restaurants. There's little benefit in needlessly exposing yourself to temptations, particularly when you know that the enemy is hard to beat. Day 102, on the deeper meaning behind temptations. Monastic rules that advise renouncing liquor, renouncing sex, and so on are not pointing out that those things are inherently bad or immoral, but that we use them as babysitters. We use them as a way to escape, we use them to try to get comfort and to distract ourselves. Pema Chodron 97. Deconstructing a temptation piece by piece can uncover interesting facts about why you engage in them at all. Of course, you can say that you eat chocolate simply because you enjoy its taste. However, what if there's a deeper meaning behind it, a need it fulfills beyond the need for something sweet to eat? If you address this need in a different, more positive way, you'll no longer need to eat chocolate. I'll share with you a personal example of mine. I was once going through a period in which I couldn't control my eating. I would eat a big meal that would normally satisfy me for the entire day, and then would continue eating afterward, sometimes a few snacks, sometimes another large meal an hour or two later. I discovered that the primary reason behind this behavior wasn't hunger in itself. I ate a lot because I didn't have anything productive to do, and I didn't have anything productive to do because I felt slightly depressed. I was in a downward spiral, I was low-spirited and demotivated, so I didn't take any actions that led to boredom. Then, because I wanted to fill my days with something, I filled them with food. When I came up with a new business goal and started working more, the problem soon disappeared. Think about your problematic behaviors and temptations and seek a deeper meaning behind them. Why do you use these particular methods to comfort or distract yourself? Why do you need to comfort or distract yourself in the first place? What is the trigger or emotional need that leads to the negative behavior, and what kind of emotional payoff do you expect to get out of engaging in it? Day 103, Uncontrolled Burn. Small forest fires periodically cleanse the system of the most flammable material, so this does not have the opportunity to accumulate. Nassim Taleb 98. Fire is a natural part of the forest ecology. Regular small fires serve a cleansing purpose, reducing the amount of fuel buildup and consequently lowering the likelihood of a potentially large, disastrous fire. Fires promote the growth and biodiversity of surviving healthy vegetation when the old, sickly trees burn and the ashes add nutrients to the soil. Moreover, burned trees provide habitat for the wildlife which often grows in numbers after a fire. A controlled burn is a strategy that foresters around the world use to regulate plant and animal life, usually as a way to reduce the risk of a larger, uncontrolled fire. You can use a similar strategy. Give yourself some slack every now and then to prevent yourself from a massive, uncontrollable loss of self-discipline. The most obvious application of this technique is in dieting, allowing yourself a cheat meal every now and that will help you avoid an unplanned cheat day or cheat week that could result in disastrous consequences for your long-term progress. You can use a controlled burn in any other endeavor that requires you to maintain high levels of self-discipline for a long period of time. For example, if you're working hard on your business, every other week give yourself an entire day to slack off instead of working your fingers to the bone and burning out. Controlled burns, as long as they remain controlled and limited to a defined period of time, can increase your long-term discipline, so don't feel guilty about scheduling one every now and then. You might temporarily lose some momentum, but in the long haul it will be worth it. Day 104, On the Past Predicting the Future. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Phil McGraw 99. If yet again you're telling yourself that you'll do something once X or Y happens, stop fooling yourself. The pop psychology maxim of past behavior being the best predictor of future behavior is absolutely correct for that situation. This cynical rule isn't always right. If it were, nobody would ever be able to change. However, it holds true whenever you've been thinking of doing something for years and always ended up by putting it off, thinking that when the conditions would change, you'd certainly do it. There's only one way to get out of this trap. When you catch yourself making a list of the right conditions before you act on your goal, tear the list up and take action now. If you're telling yourself that once the conditions are right, you'll surely do it, count how many times you told yourself the same thing before, and didn't ever do it at all, and add one more instance, because that's what most certainly will happen this time, too. Day 105, on predicting when you'll give in. People who think they have the most willpower are actually the most likely to lose control when tempted. Why? They fail to predict when, where, and why they will give in. Kelly McGonigal 100. If you don't know yourself well, you'll struggle with building self-discipline because temptations will often catch you unprepared. A key practice you should embrace in your everyday life is to make a note of when, where, and why you give in to temptations. This knowledge will help you structure your life in such a way that you'll reduce the chances of a similar situation happening again or help you become prepared to overcome the urge when it arises again. For example, I know that when I take a nap during the day, I'll most likely wake up hungry. I have no idea why. All I know is that if I fall asleep during the day, it's almost guaranteed that I'll wake up so hungry that I'll have to eat something, and while it's usually a piece of fruit and some nuts, often, in my still groggy state, I'll overeat. Consequently, whenever I feel tired and know that I'll need to take a nap, I mentally prepare myself for the hunger when I wake up. If I can, I simply eat less prior to taking the nap so that when I wake up, I won't eat more than my intended daily calorie ration. Alternatively, I try to set up a meeting with a friend so that when I wake up, I'll immediately have to leave, with no time to spare for a visit to the pantry. Think of some of your most common slip-ups and figure out when, where, and why they happen. What can you do when you're most likely to give in to the temptation? What can you do to avoid visiting the venue where they're most likely to happen? Why do you think you're succumbing to this temptation, and is there any other way in which you can address the need this temptation fulfills, without actually giving into it? Week 16. Day 106, on valuing your own opinion. I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. Marcus Aurelius 101. Publicly refusing instant gratification, such as ordering a salad when everybody around you orders a pizza, can result in criticism from other people. If you lack trust in yourself, this negative feedback can cause self-doubt and compromise your long-term goals. As Marcus Aurelius points out, it's a curious fact that even though we consider ourselves the most important people in our lives, we still often value the opinion of others more than our own. Usually people who are the opposite of what you want to accomplish criticize you out of fear of being inferior to you. If you manage to reach success, what does it say about them? Consequently, even if they aren't malicious by nature, you may sense resistance coming from their direction, often masquerading as good-hearted advice, but intended to make you conform to the status quo. While I doubt that there is a foolproof way to stop valuing the opinion of others more than our own, and I doubt that it would be smart to assume that we know everything best, forever, there is a way to protect yourself from self-doubt upon hearing criticism. It's really quite simple. Whenever somebody criticizes your choices, ask yourself if they can serve as a model for you. If your overweight friend ridicules your resolution to stop eating fast food, is his or her opinion valuable for you? Does he or she set a positive example and have the credibility to change your mind? If not, why listen to him or her? Day 107, on the innocent distractions. Distraction and displacement seem innocent on the surface. How can we be harming ourselves by having fun, or seeking romance, or enjoying the fruits of this big, beautiful world? But lives go down the tubes one repetition at a time, one deflection at a time, 140 characters at a time. Stephen Pressfield 102. While it may seem that I place self-discipline as the most important thing in life, I want to clarify that that's not the case. We weren't made for work alone, and it's important to celebrate what life has to offer, particularly as a reward after a job well done. However, we weren't made for constantly entertaining ourselves and engaging in low-quality pleasures either. These innocent distractions can make life more pleasurable, but at the same time a monster hides behind the innocence, developing an erroneous belief that there's nothing wrong with exceptions. An exception every now and then won't hurt you, but when you do it regularly, it isn't an exception anymore, it's a habit. And that's how people continue to drink fizzy drinks, while they said a long time ago they'd stop, how people continue spending money they don't have, even though they vowed to make smart purchases, and how people watch TV instead of learning for their next exam. Doing it just one more time quickly converts into another, and yet another exception, and soon the exception becomes the new norm. Every time you catch yourself saying that you're going to do it for the last time, remember that, as Stephen Pressfield nicely put it, lives go down the tubes one exception at a time. Day 108, on following a routine. I only write when inspiration strikes. Fortunately it strikes at 9 every morning. William Faulkner 103. If you depend on inspiration to act on your goals, don't expect to achieve them quickly, if ever. The only way to ensure that you consistently advance toward your objectives is to establish a routine and force inspiration upon yourself. It works in the same way as with people who always feel hunger at the same time. They've accustomed their bodies to eating at the same hour every day. My preferred time to write is early morning. That's when inspiration strikes me, but it's only so because I established a routine and followed it religiously for years. Likewise, an inspiration to improve my foreign language skills strikes me at 9 in the morning because that's when I usually have language classes. Again, I don't rely on fickle and elusive motivation. I rely on a routine. You can benefit from routines when working on virtually any other goal. Always exercise at the same hour, and soon you'll train yourself to be ready for exercise at the same hour. Always meditate right after waking up, and soon you'll find yourself automatically inspired to meditate upon getting out of your bed. Always set aside a fixed portion of your income each week or each month, and soon you won't even think twice before sending it away to your emergency fund. Making your life predictable by sticking to a set of routines might seem boring, but imagine how exciting it will be to finally accomplish your goals, thanks to following those routines. It also uses less energy when you follow the routines as a habit, so you can accomplish more with less energy, leaving you more time and energy for other things that increase your pleasure in the journey itself. Day 109, on the size of containers. Moviegoers who were given fresh popcorn ate 45.3% more popcorn when it was given to them in large containers. This container size influence is so powerful that even when the popcorn was disliked, people still ate 33.6% more popcorn when eating from a large container than from a medium-sized container. Brian Wansink 104. Sometimes weird tips can go a long way toward helping you accomplish some common goals, such as losing weight. In the cited study, the size of the popcorn containers affected how much people ate from them. What's interesting is that, even if they didn't like popcorn, when they were eating it from a larger container, they still ate more than people who were eating from a medium-sized container. Conclusion. If you want to eat less, and consequently, increase your chances of success when dieting without the need for more willpower, consume in smaller containers, smaller plates, bowls, and glasses. When the plate is bigger than the food on it, it looks like there's less food than when it's a small plate filled to the brim with a smaller amount of food. As a bonus random dieting tip for today, if you're struggling not to eat something, go and brush your teeth. For some strange reason, brushing your teeth, at least in my experience, makes you less likely to indulge, probably because you don't want to lose the freshness you now feel in your mouth, plus things don't taste well immediately after brushing your teeth, so it gives you time to pause and think before you cheat. Day 110, on moving yourself closer to the finish line. People find it more motivating to be partly finished with a longer journey than to be at the starting gate of a shorter one. Chip and Dan Heath 105. Think of the difference between having run the first 5 miles, or kilometers, out of 25 and having just taken the first steps of a 5-mile or 5 kilometers run. Even though they're so similar, according to best-selling authors Chip and Dan Heath, people are more motivated when they're facing the first option. Based on my own observations, I think the main reason for their findings is that people usually find it difficult to start something challenging, so if they can get past the first barrier and are partway there, with some achievements under their belt, they're fired up to continue. You can benefit from this observation by moving yourself closer to the finish line, yes, even if you've just set a new goal for yourself. The idea is to fool yourself that you're actually somewhere along into the journey, and not just about to start it, a proposition many people find so discouraging that they don't even begin. How do you do it? If you want to build a financial emergency fund, you can convince yourself that you're already on the right track because you have some source of income, while others have to find it first, or if not, that you have some things you can sell that are actually just money waiting to be converted into physical cash. You surely have something you could sell, so this always works. Just like that, you're no longer just getting started with the goal, you're already partly finished. Let's go with another example. Imagine you want to have a flat stomach or become more muscular. You're already partly finished with this goal when you can perform basic bodyweight exercises. People who can't need to learn them first. If you've read some articles or books about exercise, people who haven't have to educate themselves first, or if you have fit friends and support, others need to find it first, etc. Whatever your starting point is, think of what you already have or what you've already accomplished and use it as a way of seeing that you're closer to the finish line than you thought. Day 111, on patience with mindset changes. Nothing important comes into being overnight, even grapes or figs need time to ripen. If you say that you want a fig now, I will tell you to be patient. First, you must allow the tree to flower, then put forth fruit, then you have to wait until the fruit is ripe. So if the fruit of a fig tree is not brought to maturity instantly or in an hour, how do you expect the human mind to come to fruition, so quickly and easily? Here's a rule everybody would be wise to remember: don't expect to change the negative habits you've been engaging in for years over the course of a few days or even a few weeks. Mindset changes, in both positive and negative directions, take time to develop. At the very least, it will take you months or even years to eradicate negative habits and traits from your life. Getting angry at the timeline is futile because you can't change the past. All you can do now is do your best to stay faithful to your new resolutions and be patient. If you're starting from zero, without a vice you first need to get rid of, it will obviously take you less time to acquire the virtue you're seeking, as you don't have to reverse the negative effects of the vice. Even so, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to implement a permanent change overnight. Just as it takes time for fruit to ripen, so it takes time for a mindset to mature. A new trait or habit only becomes firmly ingrained in your identity with the passage of time and a growing number of experiences that reinforce it. Think of it as learning how to play basketball. No matter how much talent you have, you still need to take thousands upon thousands of shots to build muscle memory and develop a sixth sense for shooting the ball. Since you can't shoot hoops 24/7, it usually takes years to become a great player, and there's no way to shortcut the process. Mindset changes are the same. One successful shot doesn't make you a great basketball player. A consistent series of successful shots does, and for something to be considered consistent, it needs to be repeated over a long period of time. Day 112, on self-licensing. Past good deeds can liberate individuals to engage in behaviors that are immoral, unethical, or otherwise problematic, behaviors that they would otherwise avoid for fear of feeling or appearing immoral. Immoral. Self-licensing, also known as moral licensing, is a phenomenon in which doing something good makes you more likely to do something bad. This irrational behavior is visible in many walks of life, including political correctness, pro-social behavior, and consumer choice. Being aware of this danger and remaining vigilant when it's most likely to manifest can help you avoid it. Basically, it comes down to monitoring your actions when a good behavior inflates your ego. Say, you resisted a temptation to eat a piece of cake at work, or when you're telling yourself that you've earned the right to indulge yourself, just because you did something you consider good for your goals. Here are several situations in which self-licensing can rear its ugly head. Seeing a great deal when shopping and thinking that, since you're going to save so much money, it's intelligent to buy it, but you don't realize that you don't actually need it, going through an aisle with healthy food and buying something with a healthy label, and then proceeding to buy some sweets because, after all, you're eating healthy, so why not indulge yourself every now and then? Eating a huge post-workout meal to recover after exercise and fooling yourself that you've burned so many calories that one meal isn't going to replenish them, while in fact you're eating twice as much as you burned during exercise. Week 17. Day 113, on a lack of time. Instead of saying, I don't have time, try saying, it's not a priority, and see how that feels. I don't have time has to be the biggest and most common lie people tell themselves daily. It's never about a lack of time, because it's you who controls how you spend it, and you can always forego one thing in favor of another. Telling yourself that you don't have time to exercise means that nothing that you have in your schedule is less important than your health. With all due respect, I doubt that you, or anyone else, for that matter, do super important things 24/7 and that there's not even a single low-value activity in your routine that you could easily eliminate to make time for exercise. I strongly suggest eliminating the phrase, I don't have time, from your vocabulary. People repeat it so often and so freely that it only serves as a convenient excuse, and self-disciplined individuals shouldn't make any excuses. The next time you want to claim that you don't have time, tell yourself instead that it's not your priority. Now consider what that means for you. If exercise, and subsequently, your own health, isn't your priority, then what is? If you don't have time to attend your child's first play but still work overtime even though you don't have to, then what is more important? If you're too busy to read books, then what do you prioritize over education if you still spend time watching TV? Day 114, on fulfilling your own standards. It's far better when doing good work is sufficient. In other words, the less attached we are to outcomes, the better. When fulfilling our own standards is what fills us with pride and self-respect. When the effort, not the results, good or bad, is enough. When your motivation depends on the results of your labor, it poses a big challenge. If the results are slow to come, you'll most likely give up well before you see your efforts bear fruit. When you set new goals, think not only of the results you want to achieve, but also your own standards that you want to fulfill. While you're waiting for the results, draw inspiration from your efforts to do your best. Even if the results don't materialize for this particular goal, in itself this appreciation of your own efforts will help you to build a disciplined work ethic that will benefit your entire life. For example, for me as a writer, I know when my writing is up to my standards and I always strive to make every book better than the one before. Even if a book I consider to be my best work turns out to be a commercial flop, as has already happened a couple of times, it doesn't discourage me from writing new books. I know that I fulfilled my own standards and did my best. If I were motivated only by the results for each new release, I would have given up a long time ago. Do you know what your standards are and do you strive to fulfill them, even when there's no hope for gratification in the foreseeable future? Day 115, on the cost of indulgence. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I call life which is required to be exchanged for it, immediately or in the long run. When succumbing to a temptation, or after having done so, when you're analyzing what you did to avoid making similar mistakes in the future, think of the entire cost of your indulgence, both now and in the long run. This delicious cake. Right now, it can deliver a sugar rush and make you feel happy as it hits your taste buds. However, it's also additional calories that you probably don't need and will need to burn off. In the long term, this one cake alone can lead to another, and yet another delicious cake, resulting in gaining more weight, and then requiring even more time to lose it again. And what do you exchange for this indulgence today? Your life, the time that you have here on earth to do something more exciting and fulfilling than eating a cake. Is it really worth it? Are you fine with the fact that an indulgence today can rob you of weeks or months of your life? Day 116, on taking the low road. The problem with making an extrinsic reward the only destination that matters is that some people will choose the quickest route there, even if it means taking the low road. Being obsessed about the outcome can help you achieve it more quickly, but it carries the risk of achieving unsustainable results, or worse, ruining your life in the process by taking the low road. For example, consider a person who wants to build a successful business. Their end goal, making $1 million, is more important than anything else. They don't care about the why or how, it's only money that counts. Whenever there's an opportunity to make money, even if it's unethical, they'll take it. After all, the end justifies the means, right? Taking the low road is yet another temptation you must battle on your journey toward success. There's no glory in building a business the unethical way, ruining your body with an unsustainable, unhealthy diet just to be slim, or ruining your body forever by taking steroids and other unsafe medications just to become more muscular. One way to prevent this from happening is to always think of something bigger than an extrinsic reward as a source of motivation. Think how working on your goal, not merely reaching it, can improve you as a person. How much fun it can be or how much meaning it can give to your life. Focus on those internal rewards in the first place, and you'll greatly reduce the risk of giving in to the temptation of taking the low road. Day 117, on dressing new things in old habits. Whether selling a new song, a new food, or a new crib, the lesson is the same. If you dress a new something in old habits, it's easier for the public to accept it. You'll find it easier to change your current negative habits if you make your new, positive habits seem similar to your original, disempowering patterns. For example, if you're a huge fan of potatoes, more specifically, French fries, and now your diet forces you to give them up, it might prove to be too big of a challenge for you to eliminate them just like that. What if you allowed yourself to eat potatoes, but in a healthier form? Instead of eating French fries, you could eat baked potatoes that were sliced in a similar way as your beloved fries. It's an improvement to your diet, it gives you some positive momentum, and yet it shouldn't cost you that much in terms of willpower. If you want to start jogging and you're a fan of listening to podcasts, why not tell yourself that you're going to listen to some podcasts and in the meantime, move a little? It doesn't sound like such a big, difficult change, does it? Whenever you can, find a way to link a new change or make it as similar as possible, in appearance, not consequences, to your previous negative habit. That way, it will more easily become a permanent routine in your life. Day 118, on free things. Most transactions have an upside and a downside, but when something is free, we forget the downside. Free gives us such an emotional charge that we perceive what is being offered as immensely more valuable than it really is. Why? Because humans are intrinsically afraid of loss. The real allure of free is tied to this fear. Free is the ultimate marketing method, and it's also the one that can do the greatest damage to your resolutions, primarily those of the financial and fitness kind. From now on, whenever you see that something is free and you want to act on it, ask yourself whether you really need it. If you were to pay for it, would you still want it, or do you want it simply because you don't want to miss out on a freebie? The first practical application is for people who are on a diet and gorge on food whenever they find themselves at a party with free snacks. What are you gaining by eating all this food, and what are you losing? Unless food is scarce in your world, and it probably isn't if you're on a diet, the only thing that you're gaining is avoiding the fear of missing out. And what are you losing? Your dream, your hard work until now, and possibly your future. Are the free snacks worth it? The second application is for people who want to exert more self-control when it comes to their finances. When shopping, if there's a deal where you can get one thing for free, ask yourself whether you'd pay for this thing if it weren't offered for free, and if you're really going to have a use for it. If not, what's so special about this deal? It might be a deal to someone who would buy the thing on sale anyway, but it isn't for you. There's nothing you're losing out on if you don't purchase something that has no use for you. And if you do buy it, you're losing a lot: your money, space in your house, time needed to maintain it, etc. Day 119, on hatching the egg. We shall sooner have the fowl by hatching the egg than by smashing it. In today's world of abundance, there's always the next hot thing, a new miracle solution, a cure for it all. It's no wonder that so many people lack the self-discipline to stick to one thing and constantly jump from one thing to another, deluding themselves that the new thing will surely be better than the one they have now. If we think of pursuing your goals as being in the business of breeding chickens, how big will your fowl empire get if you constantly smash all of the eggs you have, thinking that those other eggs you've seen online will hatch more quickly? In essence, that's what a person is doing when they are constantly changing their mind. An important aspect of self-discipline is the discipline to stick to the specific strategies you've chosen to follow, in order to get the results. If the strategy you're following has been proven to work for other people, as in the case of following popular healthy diets, tested workout plans, personal finance strategies, etc., switching out of it to another one only because you think the other one could be better is nothing but an act of self-sabotage. If you're currently thinking about giving up your current strategy because you're tempted to try something else, remind yourself of the metaphor with the egg. Nobody has ever accomplished anything by constantly destroying the fruits of their labor. If your strategy has been proven to work for many people, dedicate yourself to it for at least a year before you even consider the thought of trying something else. Week 18. Day 120, on handling interruptions to your routine. Planning a variance, make it concrete, black and white, and specify exactly when the variance will end. For example, instead of doing your regular gym routine while traveling through Europe, you commit to do 20 push-ups every morning, and then as soon as you return home, resume your normal routine. Things change and routines get disrupted, with travel being one of the most common culprits. Whenever I can, I try to maintain the exact same routine as I follow when I am back home. If I can't, as Tynan suggests, I come up with an alternative that is specifically to be used during the time of the disruption. For example, in a few days I'm going to travel to Cyprus, an island country in the eastern Mediterranean. I have no idea whether I'll have access to any fitness equipment there, including something as simple as a pull-up bar. Consequently, I plan to take advantage of the surroundings as much as I can. To maintain my shape, swim in the sea, take long walks or run at the beach, hike in the mountains, and if I find the time, perform some simple bodyweight exercises that don't require any kind of equipment whatsoever. This way, when I come back home, I won't feel as if I've lost my normal routine. And I won't, it will only be altered for the special occasion, but I'll still perform it, and consequently, won't run the risk of falling off the bandwagon. When you know about an approaching situation that's likely to disrupt your routine, prepare yourself beforehand. Think if there's any way that you can maintain your routine despite that situation, and if you can't, come up with an alternative routine modified for the special circumstances. Even if your best idea is not a great one, at least you'll still be sticking to your routine in some way, and that will prevent you from losing it.